He proposed with a ring that wasn't meant for me, and I found out just before the wedding. What happened next shocked everyone. The ring had another woman's initials engraved inside it. He got down on one knee. The restaurant was packed. The cameras were ready. The violinist played our song. And I said yes. But the second I saw those tiny letters in the band MC, something inside me broke. My name is Olivia Daniels. My initials are OD. Not even close. He hugged me like nothing was wrong, like he hadn't just shattered everything I thought was real. I smiled for the pictures. I showed the ring. I played my part. But inside, I was already planning my revenge. Red triangle pointed down, and what I did next, no one saw coming. Let me take you back to that night. We were at Le Jardin, the kind of five-star place you only see on Instagram. Gold chandeliers, crystal glasses, waiters who glide like ghosts. I should have felt like the luckiest girl in the world. Instead, I was one blink away from screaming. Jason, the man I'd been dating for 2 years, was everything on paper. Tall, ambitious. That charming smile that got him promoted to regional director before 30. And when he looked at me across that candlelit table, I believed he loved me. Until he pulled out the box. Until I saw the ring. The outside was perfect. Princess cut, platinum band, glimmering under the candlelight. But when he slid it onto my finger, I caught it, barely. A tiny engraving inside the band. MC. Not my initials. Not mine. I choked on the champagne I hadn't even sipped. But Jason just grinned, oblivious. You okay, Liv? I smiled. Lied. I'm perfect. The next morning, I sat in the bathroom with the ring in my palm. Turning it. Staring. MC. The letters stared back like a warning. I Googled everything, jeweler marks, serial numbers, anything to prove it wasn't what it looked like. No luck. By the time Jason walked into the room with 2 mugs of coffee and that smug, proud fiancé smile, I had a theory. And I was praying it was wrong. I didn't want to snoop, but I did. I remembered his best friend's wedding last fall. He was distracted that weekend. Secretive. I'd chalked it up to stress. So I called Ellie, his friend's wife. She hesitated at first. Did Jason ever date someone before me named? MC. Silence. Olivia, she said carefully. You should talk to Jason. That's when I knew. I could have confronted him. I should have. But something stopped me. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was the sick need to see just how deep the lie went. So I played along. I posted the engagement photo, smiled at the comments, answered questions about wedding dates and dress shops. Jason ate it up. And every night, while he slept peacefully beside me, I stared at that ring like it was a ticking bomb. It took me 5 days to find it. An email. He hadn't deleted it. He just marked it red. Subject line. Final ring revision for Marissa C. Confirmation enclosed. Marissa. The name hit like a truck. I clicked the file. It was a photo. The same ring. Same engraving. He bought the ring for someone else. Not just anyone. Marissa C. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I got curious. I searched Marissa C. on his LinkedIn connections. Found her in seconds. Real estate agent. Blonde. Gorgeous. Lives in the same city. I clicked on her Instagram. It was public. Her last post? 6 months ago. Caption. Some things aren't meant to last forever. Some things never really began. Jason had told me she was just a fling. Liar. I created a fake email. Made a fake name. I contacted Marissa. Told her I was a bride-to-be wanting to view her latest listings. She answered within minutes. Friendly. Warm. Professional. We booked a meeting for Thursday at noon. And I was going to wear the ring. She met me at a cafe. Perfect smile. Designer heels. She didn't recognize me. Not yet. I shook her hand. Hi, I'm Olivia. She froze. Her eyes flicked to the ring. And for a fraction of a second, she paled. You okay? I asked, acting innocent. She smiled too wide. Of course. We talked houses, kitchens, school districts. But her eyes kept drifting to the ring. When I stood to leave, she stopped me. That ring. It's beautiful. Thanks, I said. My fiancé gave it to me last week. Custom made. Her eyes glassed over. Jason always wanted it to be a surprise, she whispered. My stomach flipped. So it was true. He bought it for her. They were supposed to get married. And when she said no, he gave it to me instead. That night, I made a plan. I was going to break Jason. Not with screaming. Not with tears. With precision. And I was going to make sure Marissa knew everything too. They wanted secrets? I was done playing nice. I started small. Deleted Jason's Spotify account. He'd spent years curating it. Then I blocked him from the wedding planning site. Reassigned all the emails to my burner. He asked what happened. I smiled. Probably a glitch. I called the jeweler. Told them I wanted the engraving removed. They hesitated. But I had his receipt. I want it changed to OD, I said. Like it should have been. They did it. Free of charge. Jason doesn't know. Not yet. But he's about to find out what it feels like to be blindsided. To be humiliated. To be handed a ring and a future he doesn't deserve. And I haven't even started the real part of the plan. I returned home from the meeting with Marissa, my mind racing with possibilities. The confirmation that the ring was originally meant for her ignited a fire within me. I couldn't confront Jason directly, not yet. I needed a plan, something that would make him feel the weight of his deception. I began by collecting every piece of information I could about Jason's past relationships, especially with Marissa. Social media, old emails, anything that could provide insight into his patterns. I discovered that he had a history of manipulating women, making grand gestures to cover up his lies. This wasn't just about me, it was a pattern. Using a burner email, I sent an anonymous tip to Marissa, including screenshots of the ring receipt and the engraving. I wanted her to know the truth, to see that Jason was recycling his promises. Her response was swift and furious. She thanked me for the information and hinted at taking her own form of revenge. Meanwhile, I maintained the facade on social media. Engagement photos, wedding planning updates, all carefully curated to portray the perfect couple. Jason basked in the attention, oblivious to the storm brewing beneath the surface. Every like and comment fueled his ego, making his eventual downfall even more satisfying. I scheduled a meeting with our wedding planner, ensuring Jason couldn't attend. During the meeting, I subtly suggested changes that would make the wedding more about me and less about us. I wanted to see how far I could push the narrative without him noticing. The planner, sensing my assertiveness, complied without question. Next, I took control of our joint finances. I rerouted funds, closed unnecessary accounts, and ensured that I had access to all financial records. Jason, trusting me implicitly, didn't notice the changes. This financial control would be crucial for the next phase of my plan. I organized a bachelorette party, inviting all of Jason's exes, including Marissa. I framed it as a celebration of moving on and empowerment. The real purpose was to gather stories, to understand the full extent of Jason's manipulations. The stories were eerily similar, painting a picture of a man who thrived on deceit. With the information gathered, I compiled a dossier detailing Jason's lies, financial inconsistencies, and manipulative behaviors. I included testimonies from his exes, financial records, and the ring receipt. This dossier would be the linchpin in exposing him. I waited patiently, continuing the charade of the blissful bride-to-be. Every day brought me closer to the moment of revelation. Jason remained unaware, his confidence growing with each passing day. The stage was set, and the curtain was about to rise. I scheduled a private dinner with Jason, under the guise of discussing final wedding details. Little did he know, this dinner would mark the beginning of his unraveling. I rehearsed my lines, prepared the evidence, and steeled myself for the confrontation. As I looked into Jason's eyes across the dinner table, I smiled sweetly, knowing that his world was about to crumble. He raised his glass, toasting to our future, oblivious to the storm about to hit. I didn't confront him that night, or the next. Instead, I wore the ring. I smiled for photos. I played the perfect fiancé, because I needed time. I needed proof. And more than anything, I needed a plan. Every night I stared at the ring, my stomach twisted into knots. It was beautiful. Platinum, oval cut, subtle vintage detail. But not once did he ask me if I liked it. Not once did he tell me where it came from. That silence spoke louder than anything. I waited until he left for the gym to snoop. He never locked his laptop. Amateur mistake. I found the receipts within minutes. Not in his inbox, but his deleted folder. As if he thought erasing them would erase the truth. It was from a jeweler in Phoenix. The order was 6 months old. A custom ring for Elena. That name hit me like a punch to the chest. Elena, his ex. I remembered her vaguely. Stunning. Elegant. They dated before me, then amicably split. According to him, she moved across the country. They lost touch. Liar. I kept digging. And then I found it. An archived email chain. He hadn't just stayed in touch with Elena. They had dinner 2 months ago. He told her he was still in love with her. That he had a ring. That he wanted to try again. She told him she was engaged to someone else. A week later, he proposed to me. I stared at those emails until my eyes burned. And then I smiled. Because two things were now very, very clear. He didn't love me. He needed to look good for his family. The same family who'd been begging him to settle down. The same mother who sent me daily pins from wedding blogs. The same sister who posted about our engagement like it was her own. They wanted a perfect bride. A perfect wedding. Fine. I'd give them one. And I'd destroy him in the middle of it. I started with his sister, Melissa. I invited her to brunch. Gushed about wedding plans. Showed her new Pinterest boards I'd made just for her. She lit up. I asked if she could help me throw a family engagement dinner. Intimate. Just the closest loved ones. She said yes before the mimosas even arrived. I offered to handle invites. Said I wanted to make it special. Personal. I told my fiancé I'd CC him once it was all done. Instead, I blind copied one extra email. Elena's. I still had her address from the email thread. I didn't expect her to come. But if she did, fireworks. The dinner was held at his parents' country club. Everyone dressed like it was a royal wedding. His mom wore pearls the size of grapes. His dad gave a toast about legacy and finally settling down. And then I stood to speak. I just want to say how grateful I am. I began, clutching my wine glass. To be here, with all of you, celebrating something so unexpected. He squeezed my hand. I squeezed back harder. I never thought I'd find love again. Not after everything. I turned to look directly at him. Not after what happened with Elena. Every fork dropped. He froze. I smiled sweetly. Oh, you didn't think I knew? And right then, the doors opened. She walked in like a ghost. Dressed in red. Eyes locked on him. He stood so fast his chair toppled over. Why is she here? He demanded, voice breaking. Because you lied, I said. To her. To me. To everyone. His sister gasped. His mother covered her mouth. I reached into my bag and pulled out my phone. Let's read some emails, shall we? I didn't even need to read much. Just the first few lines. His own words. I still love you. I bought the ring. I'll wait as long as it takes. I paused. And then, he gave that ring to me. The silence was nuclear. His father stood. Is this true? He didn't answer. Couldn't. Elena finally spoke. Her voice cold. You said she meant nothing. Then she turned and walked out. He chased after her. I didn't follow. His family looked at me like I'd set off a bomb. Because I had. His mother apologized to me. His sister cried. His father simply shook my hand. You deserved better, he said quietly. The engagement was over by morning. But the story? Far from finished. Because as I packed my things and left our shared apartment, I noticed something odd in the closet. Another ring box. Another receipt. Different name. Different date. Different girl. Red triangle pointed down. I thought I was the one he lied to. Turns out, I wasn't the only one. The engagement dinner had ended in chaos. Jason's lies were exposed, and Elena's unexpected appearance only added fuel to the fire. I watched as his carefully constructed world began to crumble. As I packed my belongings to leave our shared apartment, I stumbled upon another ring box hidden in the closet. Inside was a different ring, accompanied by a receipt addressed to a woman named Samantha. It became clear that Jason's deceit extended beyond just me and Elena. I reached out to Samantha, posing as a wedding planner conducting a survey. Through our conversation, I learned that Jason had proposed to her as well, using the same ring he had given me. The pattern of his manipulations was undeniable. I contacted both Elena and Samantha, revealing Jason's duplicity. Together, we formed an alliance, determined to expose his true nature to the world. We crafted a detailed post outlining Jason's actions, complete with evidence. The post went viral, garnering support and sympathy from countless individuals who had experienced similar betrayals. Jason attempted to salvage his reputation, claiming he was misunderstood. However, the overwhelming evidence made his excuses fall flat. His social circle began to distance themselves, leaving him isolated. With the collective testimonies of his victims, we pursued legal action against Jason for fraud and emotional distress. The case gained media attention, further tarnishing his image. Through this ordeal, I discovered a newfound strength within myself. I realized that I deserved honesty and respect, and I vowed never to settle for less again. With Jason's chapter closed, I focused on rebuilding my life. I pursued new opportunities, surrounded myself with supportive friends, and embraced the freedom that came with letting go of the past. Just as I began to find peace, I received an anonymous message hinting at a deeper secret about Jason's past. Curiosity piqued. I prepared to uncover the final piece of the puzzle. It was 2:14 a.m. when I got the anonymous message. No name, no subject, just a sentence. Check the safe deposit box at Sycamore Bank. Box number 118. He kept everything. I stared at the screen, heartbeat thudding. I hadn't spoken to Jason in weeks. He'd gone dark, deleted social media, ghosted everyone. Rumors said he'd left the city. Some said he was hiding from the lawsuits. Some said he was trying to silence anyone who spoke out. I didn't care until that message. I drove to Sycamore Bank that morning. I lied. Said I was his fiancée. Said I lost the key. The teller looked at me with pity and printed out paperwork. Box number 118 is restricted, she said. But there's an emergency override if you're listed as an authorized party. My breath caught as she looked at the screen. You are. He'd never removed my name. The box was heavy, colder than the metal it was made of. Inside were three things. A phone, dead, but scratched and clearly hidden for years. A folder marked X case. A flash drive. I opened it right there in the room. Inside were printed emails, photos, signatures, marriage licenses. Jason hadn't just proposed to women. He'd married at least two of them. Fake names, offshore accounts. He'd used different IDs, cleverly forged, but traceable. He was a con artist, a predator in a three-piece suit. I waited until I was home to open the flash drive. My hands trembled as I clicked through the folders. Inside were recorded calls, videos, screenshots. One video was labeled, "Don't let her find out." It was Jason, sitting in our old apartment. I think Olivia's starting to suspect, he said. But if I can keep her on the hook until the settlement clears, I'm out. I stopped breathing. I was never the one. I charged it. Text after text lit up the screen, all from different women. One of them had even sent him a photo from the hospital. A baby. You said you'd be here. She deserves to know her father. He was collecting lives, promises, futures, and discarding them like old receipts. Every piece of love he gave me, every word, every ring, it was all part of a script. I turned it all in. The marriage fraud, the offshore accounts, the fake names. An agent in a crisp black suit thanked me for bringing in one of the slipperiest fraudsters on the East Coast. They'd been looking for him for years. He used me, and that made me the key to catching him. The story exploded. Romance scammer caught by former fiancé. News anchors ate it up. TikTok sleuths traced his digital footprints. Victims came out of the woodwork. One woman had lost her savings. Another had given birth to his child and never heard from him again. I kept my name out of the press, but I watched the world catch fire around his lies. He was caught crossing the Canadian border with a fake ID and $20,000 in cash. When they searched his bag, they found another ring box. Same velvet lining, same brand. Inside, a ring identical to mine. 2 weeks later, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Just 3 words. You won. Congrats. I laughed. Out loud. He thought this was a game, but I wasn't playing anymore. That night, as I lay in bed, phone on silent, I got a voicemail. Blocked number. I pressed play. There was a pause. Then a voice. Olivia, this isn't over. It wasn't Jason's voice. It was a woman's. And she sounded exactly like me. It was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. A white dress. A perfect venue. A room full of people who thought they knew the story. But they didn't know me. Not really. Not anymore. I stood in front of the mirror in the bridal suite, veil cascading over my shoulders, ring gleaming on my finger. Her ring. It still haunted me. I could never unsee the initials. The tiny CM carved inside the band. Not mine. Chris knocked gently on the door. Can I come in? My heart stopped. This was it. He stepped inside, suit sharp, hair perfectly styled, but his eyes? Not calm, not confident. He looked like a man walking toward a cliff. I wanted to see you, he said softly. Before everything starts. I nodded slowly. You sure there's nothing you want to tell me first? He tilted his head, that same confused, innocent expression. Always pretending. Always lying. People rose as I walked down the aisle. The music swelled. Chris smiled like a prince. The officiant spoke. We repeated the vows. Then he slid the ring onto my finger. And I stopped. Actually, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear, I think we need to pause. The gasps were instant. I turned to the crowd. Before we say, I do, I have something to share. A little story. 3 months ago, I began, voice shaking but strong. Chris proposed to me with a ring. But not just any ring. It belonged to someone else. Someone named Cassie Martin. The crowd murmured. Faces twisted in confusion. I locked eyes with Chris. He paled. I found old messages. Photos. Dates that overlapped with ours. He didn't just cheat, he recycled. That ring? It was meant for someone else. And I wore it, thinking it was mine. Chris stepped forward. No, wait, this isn't how it looks. But I held up my hand. Don't. Then I turned to the crowd again. I let it go. At first, I wanted to believe I could forgive it. But then I found out Cassie isn't just an ex. I pulled a printed email from my bouquet and read. Let me know if she says yes. If not, I'm still here. CM. Dead silence. I reached out to her, I said, and she responded. Suddenly, the doors at the back of the chapel opened, and there she was, Cassie Martin. Red dress. Heels like weapons. A queen walking into a kingdom that betrayed her. She walked straight down the aisle, past stunned guests, and stood beside me. She didn't deserve it, Cassie said. Neither did I. Chris looked like he'd been punched. What are you doing? He whispered. Cassie smiled. Finishing what you started. Cassie turned to the crowd. This man played us both. Lied. Manipulated. He promised me forever, then ghosted me and proposed to her with my ring. Gasps. Murmurs. Someone actually said, "Oh my God," out loud. I nodded. So I made a choice. I didn't leave. I planned. I invited her. And I decided, if he's going to build a future on lies, he can do it alone. I turned, unclasped the ring, held it out to Chris. It never fit anyway. He didn't take it, so I dropped it. It hit the marble floor with a sound that echoed like thunder. I walked out. Cassie followed. And the crowd? Half of them clapped. Weeks later, the video went viral. A guest had filmed the whole thing. Bride exposes cheating groom mid-ceremony was trending for days. Chris lost his job, his image, his mask. Cassie and I stayed in touch. Not friends, but survivors of the same war. And me? I moved across the country. Started over. Built something real. One night, months later, I got a message request. No name. Just one line. She said no too. Chris. Still chasing a future that never belonged to him. I didn't reply. I just smiled. Because for the first time, I wasn't the one left in silence. Red triangle pointed down, and if you think that was the end, you should have seen what happened at his brother's wedding.